At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. This is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Some researchers have estimated that the value of the labor extracted from enslaved Africans was up to $24 trillion, and others up to $97 trillion. Taking an average of these estimates yields a conservative valuation of up to $50 trillion, which is the effective size of tax imposed on Black people between 1619 and 1860. These estimates do not include any costs associated with the unimaginable pain and suffering, such as murder, rape, torture, separation of families, denied entrepreneurial enterprise, denial of education, theft of inventions and intellectual property, denial of freedom and the right to pursue happiness that accompanied the daily life of a slave over the course of 17 generations. So we are talking about a considerable, almost incalculable sum of money extracted from enslaved Africans that created extraordinary wealth for this country and for white America that was never recouped by American descendants of chattel slavery.
Yes. Hey!
Some researchers have estimated.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. Happy New Year, ADOS and our allies. You know who it is, family. Same thing I was doing in 2018. Same thing I was doing in 2019. Same thing I was doing in 2020. It's the same damn square I am on in 2021. You know what time it is, family. It is your hostess with the mostest, Angela Nirvana, bringing you those ADOS hot topics and making the case for reparations and making the case for weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering. I see you, Brian Johnson. Happy New Year, fam. Otis Griffin. Oh, I love you, Black and Strong, fam. Thank you for joining the live. Sleepy CCS. I see you, fam. Henry Jerry Andrews. Welcome to the live. Darlene Stewart. I love you, Black and Strong. Kelly Pryor. What is going on, family? And for all of you who have yet to chat, welcome one and all. Gibson Eugene, Justin Mathis, ADOS New Jersey, Terry Lewis. Hey. I see you, family. I love you so much. It feels like Donna Jackson eons since I saw you last. But you know, I'm trying to move my show into a pocket where I'm not competing with all of New Black Media. It is so rich. And I am so proud of you, ADOS, in these spaces, using your voice and letting folks know about the debt we are owed in the trillions over multi-generations. We won't give in, family. We won't give up. The revolution is being social media eyes, family. And we are putting in that full court press, squeezing this country from all sides, whether we're in the streets, whether we're at the meetings, whether we started a show and are putting our money into the show. The advocacy is real, family. And I don't want you to get distracted out here because folks are coming for us. Yes, family, they're trying to COINTELPRO us. They are literally talking out of the side of their necks without offering receipts that ADOS is xenophobic. And this is an indication, family, that we are on our square and we are in the right fight and we are on the right side of history. Do you understand what I'm telling you? When they got your own people trying to call you xenophobes for speaking up and out for the ADOS, that's when you know you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. And so please I want you guys, because folks are complaining that I'm not very polite about the way I check folks when they have questions. I'm going to try to do better and not scream and wail and gnash my teeth. But I do want the newcomers. What's up, Alexis Cummings, my sister from another mister? Thank you for joining the live. Yeah, I do want you guys who don't understand the frustration of the movement. We've been only doing this for about 6 years now. It really came to fruition when Kamala Harris threw her hat in the ring. I know that I'm a co-founder of ADOS SoCal after Juneteenth. Okay, so understand that many of us are challenged with post-traumatic slave syndrome, and we are really losing patience. And the fact that 85% of the electorate showed up to vote for the author of the 94 crime bill and Cali's top cop, 85% of the electorate thought it wise to replace a racist in office for 4 years with racist, plural, in office of combined 65 years. And so, Deborah Burrow, I see you, family. Thank you for joining the live. Martin Norwood, I see you, family. Thank you, one and all. But yes, you have to understand that you've got to be patient even with the people in the ADOS movement. When I, for one, know that I can go off the rails and just come for everybody's throat that wants to come for ADOS, I am especially protective of our group because I understand what we've been through to get to where we are now. Child, the ghetto, okay? They are still popping firecrackers from last night. Forgive it. The show must go on. And mama gets hot, so I have the screen door open. It's like about 70 degrees down here in Southern California in my own private summer. The combination of the two. Okay, so if you hear these things, it's not a gunshot. They're celebrating. But anywho, I know that I am not the most patient when it comes to explaining over and over and over again that loving ADOS, it's not anti-immigrant and it's not anti-white. It is simply a deep love and justice and compassion for our people that have been traumatized since we've been in this country with 3Ks, okay? This is not to be on the attack, but I really need people to understand, overstand really, where we are coming from when we lose a little patience. I'm going to try in this year to be more patient when I explain our plight. I developed this show to lend my voice to the narrative. I was inspired by Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore from Tone Talks and Breaking Brown to do my perspective, the way I see it, and bring something altogether different to the narrative and things that weigh on me, things that I'm going back and forth in Facebook over. I'm not much of a Twitter or Instagram kind of girl. I'm a Facebook girl, and things get very heated. So I saw one of the guys coming for ADOS, in some type of meme. They're everywhere. My God, now they're in the new clubhouse calling us xenophobes. So what ends up happening is this is what the white oppressors want. They want us fighting each other. And they want to
COINTELPRO, the movement, to slow us down and to stop us, because we've got momentum, okay? We were the very reason. I know folks have been fighting for reparations forever, so they claim, but the ADOS movement made it a national debate topic during this presidential election. Now, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I have never heard reparations being discussed on the debate stage the way I heard it this election cycle. Tell me if I'm wrong, but the bottom line is I have not. Until this movement, and I'm letting you know that the people move because we were told to move by Yvette. She was the one to tell us to stop asking her for the solution, go be the solution. So I know a lot of you are new to ADOS HQ, and that's nice and all, but please know that there are quite a few ADOS like myself who established this a couple of years prior to the HQ being formed. So shout out and all praises to Yvette and Antonio to try to put some undergirding in the movement, but we've been moving. Okay, all we needed was the green light to say go be the movement, and that's what we went to do. So just because you're new, this is another thing I want to deal with. Please don't come in here or the clubhouse and try and tell people who've been here since before it became the HQ and tell folks they can't speak on ADOS. We've been doing this work. We've been in the streets out here in California. We've coalesced as one big movement to get reparations for California done and to really push for other measures. We're pushing for our own distinction on the census and at large so that we can unflatten all of this and be seen. So I want you to know that just because you're in HQ and you're new to this, you don't have the right to tell those of us who've been doing this, who've been doing all the heavy lifting, that we can't speak on it. Some of us have decided to go off and do our own things, but we still bleed American descendant of chattel slavery. So nobody gets to be more of an authority than the next. It's very imperative that we go into these different spaces and be love in action, not be out here admonishing people as if they're speaking out of turn. It's okay to lovingly correct folks about what we do, but none of us are an authority. We're all figuring it out and we're all learning. So I am, that's for me too, note to self, as well as those that I've heard from other people that they're being dragged in different spaces because they may not be associated with HQ, but many of these people were founding members of chapters that you know not of. So watch yourself, okay? Watch yourself before you wreck yourself, and understand and show respect to those who have poured money, resources, food, time, energy, marching, doing all manner of things to make the ADOS movement what it is today. So while we're grateful that you caught on and you got the memo and you're a part of the HQ, that's cute. But there's lots of us doing this work and have been doing it. And you need to show respect and not come for people's throat. As for those of you who are trying to make us out to be xenophobes, you're really feeding into the white oppressors' narrative. They really want to stop us and slow our momentum. And sadly, some of you are helping them in participating in this narrative. And it's really tragic. But I do want you to understand that we're not going anywhere. We're here, and we're going to keep sounding the alarm until they cut the check in the trillions over multi-generations for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Now, if this has some place to land in you that is called xenophobes, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's something inherent in you that is upset because guess what? Capitalism needs a bottom. We're telling you by our demand for reparations that we're done being the anchor of this country. So as long as capitalism exists, someone will have to take that over. What the ADOS movement is telling you is that we're done being that. And so we fight for our position. We fight to unflatten Blackness because Black immigrants are doing significantly better than us. I told you from a study, ADOS, Color of Wealth LA, that down here, ADOS is around 200 liquid to Black African Nigerians, 60,000 liquid. I told you that in Boston, the ADOS is around $8 liquid. They have about $700 total assets to Caribbean Black, 12,000 total assets. I've shared with you in Miami that ADOS is around $11 liquid. Now, for the descendants of the very people who built all the wealth you guys eat from, for the immigrants in the room, the white folks in the room, I know folks watch and don't tell me that they're watching, and then they troll me. But anywho, I don't mind you being here. I don't even mind your comments because I read them and I address them. But for those of you, you have to understand that we are your reparations. And for you to be more incensed about us putting up a gate around what we are owed, and not expect us to be offended that you aren't in this fight with us, when we know that what our ancestors endured is your reparations. You see, that should be the offense, especially if you're ADOS. You absolutely should not be more upset and offended that we're putting a gate up than you are the fact that the Black immigrants who are labeling us xenophobic with our white oppressors aren't in this fight with you, slinging with you for the reparations and the Black agenda. That's the offense. Okay. So moving on. Let me go to my notes so I can stay on topic and get you guys out in a timely manner. Okay, let me address this real quick while I'm on the topic. So a lot of people have been writing me about me enjoying certain secular films. I recently indulged in Bridgerton on Netflix, and none of it's historically accurate. I mean, maybe the queen was actually Black. I don't know and don't really care. I watched it for my entertainment. Now, I don't like this idea that people want to consider me to be off code if I indulge in something and actually grow to appreciate it. They're okay with them watching it to drag it and disparage the fact that it's historically inaccurate. But I'm not supposed to watch it and get enjoyment from it. My background is the theater arts, okay? And I have a deep appreciation for various Black actors and actresses. No matter what you think of them personally, I have a lot of these people are my friends, okay? So you can disparage them and have a disdain for them all you want. When I share certain things or share my enthusiasm for a thing, and it doesn't meet with your political expectation, don't come for me. Do not do that. I am grown. I mean, full grown, over 50 grown. None of you guys gave birth to me. None of you pay my bills. Okay. So none of you get to have an opinion about how Black I am, how on code or off code I am. It's highly offensive to come up in my feed to challenge my ADOSness because I don't view things through your lens. And I'm never going to. One of the great things I appreciate about myself is that I have gotten rid of this need to please everybody all the damn time. I please me. If it's pleasing to me, it is well with my soul. Sometimes I like to decompress off of this hardship of this fight. I don't always like to be the fighting, mad, angry Black woman. Sometimes I like to take a reprieve and engage in silliness and foolishness. It isn't always politically correct. But I have this show and I exercise this show because I live on my square. I live ADOSness. So if I want to take a break and enjoy the movie Soul, I'm free to do that. If I want to take a break and enjoy the series Bridgerton, I'm free to do that. It's okay for you to get heavy duty and enlighten me and show me what you believe to be the error of my ways.
But the way some of y'all come for me as if you run me, and you don't. This movement does not run me. Nobody runs Angela Nirvana. I pay the cost to be my own damn boss. And if I engage in it and want to share it on my wall, it doesn't make me any less ADOS. It doesn't make me any less on my square. It doesn't make me any less in this fight for reparations and a Black agenda. So please never question my loyalty because you see me indulging and engaging in what you consider to be petty and inaccurate historically. So if you can watch it, inform your opinion, I'm free to watch it, inform mine. Okay, so that's that on that. Don't come for me. You don't want my smoke. And you, hey, you're free to block me as I am you. Okay, next, I want to talk about the slaves. Remembering the ancestors, a slave dread New Year's Day the worst. Let's share that article. And then we're going to get into some things that you can anticipate from the stimulus. And then we'll get into the read and pray you out. Okay, moving on. And I'll go ahead and chat. And I'll read your comments. You guys know you're my co-host. This year, we're going to be able to make phone calls. Yay! I'm still figuring things out, guys. I'm my own everything right now. So, hey, it is what it is, family, until I figure it out. But let's share this and talk about what this day really means to the ancestors and take a moment to remember them and what they endured on January 1. Hold on one second, family. Let me bring it up so we can all see it and read, okay? So here we go. All right, let me make sure you can see it, family. I am sharing the screen so you can still see me, but I have to go over so I can read, okay? Just give me a second to get back. Oh, Lord. Okay. Here we go. The slaves dread New Year's Day the worst, family. And of course, I'm going to read and give you my commentary in between. Okay. Americans are likely to think of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day as a time to celebrate the fresh start that a new year presents. But there is also a troubling side to the holiday's history. In the years before the Civil War, the first day of the new year was often a heartbreaking one for enslaved people in the United States. In the African American community, New Year's Day used to be widely known as Hiring Day or Heartbreak Day, as the African American abolitionist journalist William Cooper Nell described it. Because enslaved people spent New Year's Eve waiting, wondering if their owners were going to rent them out to someone else, thus potentially splitting up their families. The renting out of a slave labor was a relatively common practice in the antebellum South and a profitable practice for white slave owners and hirers. Hiring Day was a part of the larger economic cycle in which most debts were collected and settled on New Year's Day, says Alexis McCrossan, an expert on the history of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and a professor of history at Southern Methodist University, who writes about Hiring Day in her forthcoming book, Time's Touchstone, The New Year in American Life. Some enslaved people were put up for auction that day or held under contracts that started in January. These transactions also took place all year long, and contracts could last for different amounts of time. These deals were conducted privately among families, friends, and business contacts, and slaves were handed over in town squares, on courthouse steps, and sometimes simply on the side of the road, according to Divided Mastery, Slave Hiring in the American South by Jonathan D. Martin. Accounts of the cruelty of Hiring Day come from records left by those who secured their freedom, who described spending the day before January 1, hoping and praying that their hirers would be humane and that their families could stay together. Quote, Of all days in the year, the slaves dread New Year's Day, the worst of any. A slave named Lewis Clark said in an 1842 account. On New Year's Day, we went to the auctioneer's block to be hired to the highest bidder for 1 year. Israel Campbell wrote in a memoir published in 1861 in Philadelphia, in which he describes being hired out 3 times. That's where that saying comes from, that what you do on New Year's Day, you'll be doing all the rest of the year. A former slave known as Sister Harrison said in an interview in 1937. Harriet Jacobs wrote a particularly detailed account in the Slave's New Year's Day chapter of her 1861 autobiography, Incidents of the Life of a Slave Girl. Hiring day at the South takes place on the 1st of January. On the 2nd, the slaves are expected to go to their new masters, she wrote. She observed slave owners and farmers renting out their human chattel for extra income during the period between the cotton and corn harvest and the next planting season. From Christmas to New Year's Eve, many families would wait anxiously to find out whether they would be rented out and to whom. On New Year's Day, at the appointed hour, the grounds are thronged with men, women, and children, waiting like criminals to hear their doom pronounced, Jacobs wrote. On one of these fateful days, Jacobs saw a mother lead 7 children to the auction block. She knew that some of them would be taken from her, but they took all of them. The slave trader who took the children wouldn't tell her where he was taking them because it depended on where he could get the highest price. Jacob said she would never forget the mother crying out, "Gone, all gone. Why don't God just kill me?" Enslaved people who attempted to resist going to their new masters were whipped, thrown in jail until they relented and promised not to run away during the new arrangement. Older slaves were also particularly vulnerable, as Jacobs describes. One owner tried to hire out a frail, roughly 70-year-old woman because he was moving away. But the history of New Year's Day in American slavery is not all horror. The holiday was also associated with freedom. The federal ban on the transatlantic slave trade went into effect on New Year's Day in 1808. And African American communities did celebrate, but the festivities were short-lived. Quote, different slave trade abolition commemorations took place between 1808 and 1831, but they died out because the domestic slave trade was so vigorous, says McCrossan. The risk of violence was also too great. For example, on New Year's Eve in 1827 in New York City, a white mob attacked African American congregants and vandalized their church. The holiday became more associated with freedom than slavery when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing slaves in Confederate states on New Year's Day in 1863. Slaves went to church to pray and sing on December 31st, 1862. And that's why there are still New Year's Eve prayer services at African American churches nationwide. At such watch night services, congregants continued to pray for more widespread racial equality more than 150 years later. Correction, December 27th. Okay, the original version of this story misstated the year of an attack on an African American church on New Year's Eve in New York City. It was 1827, not 1927. Welcome, Kunta. Welcome, Arthur Ward, Chicago in the building. Trey X, Ados, Patrice Lang Jordan, Batosh Samsine, and all of you for joining the live. Some of these things, family, I just have to take a breath. It's a lot. It's a lot to make yourself available to the heinous things done to the American descendants of chattel slavery, to our ancestors. It is a lot, but it's necessary. I want to remind you who are new to the show that
This show is all about making the case for reparations and making the case for weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering. Yeah, so welcome, one and all. It's a little rough to get through it, but it's necessary because I think that we would get more voices around the fight for reparations and get more people in line with the Democratic down ballot strategy in a red top. That's what I'm pushing for, henceforth, a red top and a blue Congress to protect the over 42% of ADOS who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. Welcome, Martin Norwood. Welcome, Reginald Morton. Let me know when you're swinging bricks from, family. But this show is designed to strengthen your resolve. And oftentimes that means me reading things that are hurtful in my soul. I hurt for the ancestors. I feel the ancestors when I go through this work. But I know that what they suffered is far more egregious than we will ever know. We are paying the smallest price to lend our voices to a resounding crescendo for reparations and a Black agenda in exchange for our vote. Because if we don't collectively come together on that note, then we cannot expect the other groups to do it either. So I'm on my square. Thank you, family. Let's go next because I'm 30 minutes in. I'm doing okay, but I really want to get to the reading. But let's go. Listen, there's been a lot of debate and talk about whether or not the Black, Seminole, and Cherokee Indians are due reparations in this country before the transatlantic slave voyage, which makes these Black, Cherokee, Seminole, whatever you want to call them, Indians, American descendants of slavery. And so, unlike many of you who have come from my neck, yet again, that this is not your monkey and not your circus, let me help you understand something. As far of a distinction as I'm willing to make is that of us from Black immigrants who got here after 65 Immigration Act. If you did slavery in this country, you are an American descendant of slavery, and you are due reparations. Now, that's a whole nother show that I'm going to reserve for Sunday because I want to put together some very interesting facts for you to make the case. We cannot get to the place where we're just singling out everybody who's not African descendant of slavery in America. That's going further than I choose to. Now, no, will I go out here and start marching for Black Seminole and Black Cherokee? No, but I'm fighting for all American descendants of chattel slavery. That's my fight. That's my square. You can choose to neglect and ignore and tell them that that's the Native Indian American problem. Yes, they did get reparations, but guess what? They denied the Blacks. Those Blacks are still fighting for reparations after being slaves. Nothing different about the way they got busy with each other. Listen, I don't know. Listen, I can't call it rape. I don't know what it was. I know that we were raped. That's why many of us look the way we do. We were raped by our masters. We were drug over here on the boats. Hey, if you come from Africa, I don't care where you're from. If you're in this country and you're Black and you were enslaved in America, you're due the reparations. I'll make that case on Sunday because I want to put that together and not eat up too much time and keep you too long. So with that said, tune in Sunday for that show. Let's go over to what you can expect to get as part of, I'm going to stop this. I want to talk with you about the stimulus. Oftentimes we miss out because we don't know what is available to us, family. And I'm going to throw in some comments because I want you guys to do some things that you may not have thought to do, but it's a money grab for everybody. So ADOS needs to get that bag. Let's talk about it. Let me share the screen. Okay, let's talk about it. Oh, I hate these ads. Will they please go away? Oh, the ghetto.
Like the kids say, ooh, child, the ghetto. I'm not shopping for bras. I don't know why this won't go away. I can't seem to get rid of it. Okay, family, try to ignore that. Let's get into the article. So we got this thing signed, the $900 billion pandemic relief bill, and the measure is the second largest federal stimulus package after the $2 trillion CARES Act that Congress approved in March. Understand this, family. The little $600 they're giving you is nothing compared to the goodies they're receiving for themselves. I've shared on prior shows. They get double health care. To ADOS, zero health care, hence why most of ADOS are dying disproportionately from the COVID. Although white folks have bigger numbers, but they're a bigger populace. When you're looking in terms of population, we are dying disproportionate from COVID because many of us don't have health care. And what they're doing is sending us home to self-quarantine. They're not administering the remdesivir. I don't know if you guys have seen the black doctor who was mishandled and mistreated. Her video went viral. If I get an opportunity to bring it up, I will. But I'm really trying to stay away from, stuff that's VAC related and COVID related because it's all a pandemic in my humble opinion. And I don't want to listen here. I'm not taking the VAC. Everybody think for yourself and put it together for yourself. I've already done that show. Check the archives on why I believe that this is, designed to set us up for something even more aggrieved. And I will not participate. But understand that this, back to my point, this second stimulus enriches Congress. I think the House of Reps got a $25 million increase or bonuses or increase in salaries. They got double health care while American descendants of chattel slavery are without health care and dying disproportionate from COVID. They got, I want to say, of this particular stimulus, if my memory serves me, 197 billion go to the American people. 703 billion go to other foreign governments, lobbyists, and special interest groups. So this little $600 and being tied to this stimulus as if it's COVID relief, it's a lie. This should be 197 billion is what he approved because that's all that's in it for the American people. So let's get into the article. This is in addition to the $2 trillion CARES Act. Only about 400 billion of that was for the people. Okay, that check was 1,200. So I just kind of round up and doubled the 600. I doubled the 197 billion to get around 4 billion out of that 2 trillion from the CARES Act. Okay, so lawmakers passed a bill last Monday just in time to get something done before the end of December when several aid programs in the CARES Act were set to expire, including key, pandemic jobless assistance measures and eviction protections. That's very important. Once again, I don't agree with this being tied to some omnibus bill that includes federal spending. Okay, I wish they would have untethered these things. We're in a pandemic. These things should be separated to relieve the people because many of them have already been evicted, especially us, ADOS. So also, family, know this. They always crying, where will we get the money from? It's been a good, 5 trillion or greater that the government has enriched itself, other countries, lobbyists, and special interest groups, and propped up the stock market. While they sit up here and tell you they can't begin a payment plan of the trillions they owe us over multi-generations. So know this when you go to the polls. Know this when you put pressure on your politicians. Politicians respond to pressure, not applause. Got that from YC, Yvette Carnell, Breaking Brown. And she's absolutely right. So we got the stimulus checks. The package sends direct stimulus payments of $600 to individuals, half the amount provided in the first round of checks, which went out in the spring. Okay. Now, eligible families will receive an additional $600 per child, which is $100 more than Congress gave families in the first round of relief last spring. Let me explain to you, family. My money hit my account yesterday. Well, I saw it today. So if you filed your taxes in 2017 and 2018 and 2018 and 2019, you should be seeing your money's direct deposit hit your account. If not today, it's coming. Okay. If you saw your first round of checks direct deposit into your accounts, you should see the second round without doing anything. But do know that if you didn't get your first checks, it is because you did not file your 2018 and 2019 taxes. That needs to be filed, and you need to let them know where to send that money. So you need to let them know, the IRS know, your checking account that you want funded for your stimulus. Now, when you file your taxes, in my case, when my tax accountant files for me, he uses a bank account that I give him. So I didn't have to do anything special because they already know where to send my payment. But say you owe, you need to call up the IRS and give them the account that you want funded. If you didn't see it the first time, ask for that. And then, of course, you should get this stimulus money here. The payments start phasing out for individuals with adjusted gross incomes of more than $75,000, and those making more than $99,000 will not receive anything. The income thresholds are doubled for couples. So that means if you're a couple, that's $150,000 or to $200,000. Okay. So the payments start phasing out. If you're at $150,000 or higher as a couple, $75,000 or greater as an individual. Now, the beauty of this is if you did not claim it because you didn't know how prior to this second stimulus, the beauty of what's happening right now, first of all, go back and get that, give them the account number, call up the IRS, get your money. But if many of us are under 75,000, I know I am, because my salary has been significantly cut, although I'm still working full-time from home. So many of us should fall within this 75,000 is where it cuts off. For individuals, and 150,000 it cuts off per couple. Okay, so go and get your money. If it hasn't funded, call the IRS. The amounts will be based on your 2019 incomes. Okay, that's good too. So it's not even based on anything happening. It's not even based on 2020. That hasn't been filed. So they're going off your 2019 incomes. And yes, mine was under 75,000. So I got the first stimulus, and now I've got the second stimulus. Okay. The amounts will be based on those who filed their 2019 tax returns will receive their money automatically, as well as Social Security recipients and those who uploaded their bank account information using the IRS's online portal to receive their first payments. Undocumented immigrants who don't have Social Security numbers remain ineligible for the payments. But in a change from the first round, their spouses and children are now eligible as long as they have Social Security numbers. Unemployment benefits. Now, the jobless will receive a $300 weekly federal enhancement of benefits through March 14. The amount is half of the earlier federal boost, which ran out at the end of July. Now, let's go to this. Now, what's happening with most of the companies out here, if you are working at a fraction of your salary, you are able to claim unemployment to make up that difference, okay? So know that you can make up that difference through unemployment. So, for example, say you went back to work, okay? I'm going to use myself as an example, okay? In 2019, we didn't have these thresholds. So I qualified for the stimulus, and I also qualified for unemployment because in the beginning, as an independent contractor, the systems out here in California were not set up to allow me to claim unemployment insurance. It wasn't set up that way. They had to build a whole new system to cater to non-W-2 income earners. Okay. I'm an independent contractor in the courts. Okay. You guys don't need to know all that, but I'm an independent contractor. And so therefore, I had to wait until a system was built in order to collect unemployment insurance. Well, as I was collecting the local, which I got the max because of my salary, I got the max on the state unemployment. Then I got the max for the federal stimulus. So 600 on top of what the state paid for 13 weeks. Well, what happened? My company received a PPP. And in receiving a PPP, I had to stop the unemployment. But the unemployment didn't go away. Many of you might not know this. Pay attention. The unemployment was already awarded. Okay? The federal stimulus was already awarded. So it just simply held into an account. So I was back to full. I was only on my base. The commissions I earned, that's a whole separate issue. I'm talking about my base salary. Okay? But my company is only paying me the base. I don't get paid the commissions because I'm not in the courts. I have to work the courts from home, which means I take on fewer cases. So my company, because they got the PPP and they need to spend it, what did they do? They gave me my full base salary. Now you can't very well, I mean, people do it, but they're going to catch you and you're going to have to pay it back. So I'd be careful collecting unemployment while getting a full paycheck from your companies, okay? I wouldn't advise it. You're going to get caught, trust and believe, and you're going to have to pay all that money back. Anywho, when my company paid me my full base, I stopped collecting the unemployment. It was only when they cut my base while expecting me to work full time that I went back on unemployment. Now, I didn't start the claim all over again. Don't start it without speaking with a representative in your state. Because what happens? You get kicked to the back of the line with all the new people coming on to file new unemployment claims. Don't do that. Just pick up where you left off, okay? Do not start it over. Out here in California, pick up where you left off. There's two spots, one to start a brand new claim and one to pick up where you left off. I'm telling you to pick up where you left off. I'm telling you when they ask if you're looking for work or if you're still working, to check the COVID-related responses, okay? In my instance, it has a box that pretty much says my salary has been cut due to the COVID, or my hours have been cut due to the COVID. Now I'm working full time, but the salary has been cut. So I check that box. Check the one that most applies to you, okay? And then when you're looking for work, you want to answer yes to that. Yes, I'm looking. You don't have to put like 10 places where you're looking for work. They know that employment is hard to find during the pandemic. Just find one akin to what you currently do professionally and plug that in and keep it moving. It's just that quick and just that fast. So what ends up happening is the unemployment plus the federal stimulus that was awarded to me supplements the decrease in my base salary. So I get to claim that. The same thing is true with this. Anytime your salary is off from where you currently work, file the difference in unemployment, pick up where you left off the last time to get this additional $300 per week. Okay. Also, there are certain thresholds I want to share with you that you can even get food stamps. I want the ADOS to be fully armed when it comes to getting all of the goodies that everybody else is benefiting from. $42 billion went unclaimed the first stimulus. Don't do that. Don't let these people get the money back because you just don't know how to attain the money. Please share with everyone you know this video on how to get to this money. File for the food stamps. They're giving away food stamps for people that are on unemployment, people who have lost their jobs, people who, it's just like COVID money. All your state has a ton of other programs. They've got rent assistance. Don't lose your apartment because you don't understand that the state, along with the federal, is giving relief. Take advantage of all of it. Google it for your state and find every coin. That's the money that should be our reparations. So get all that you got coming to you. Okay, so let's get back to the text so I can get to the read. Because Trump waited until Sunday to sign the legislation, many out-of-work Americans may only get 10 weeks of augmented payments instead of 11. They'll probably find a way to get you the 11. Don't trip over the week. Also, the package extends by 11 weeks two other pandemic unemployment programs that were created in the CARES Act in March and were set to expire at the year's end. Okay? The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program initially expanded jobless benefits to gig workers, freelancers, here we go, independent contractors, and self-employed, and certain people affected by the coronavirus for up to 39 weeks, family. The Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program provided an additional 13 weeks of payments to those who exhaust their regular state benefits. Get that shmoney, family, get that shmoney. Both programs will now close to new applicants on March the 14th, but continue through April 5th for existing claimants who have not yet reached the maximum number of weeks. That's what I told you, right? When they got the PPP, I was a benefactor of that. I stopped it, but they held it in an account. So when they slashed my salary, I was able to go back and collect those weeks, family. This is great news. Also, the measure provides a federally funded $100 per week additional benefit to those who have at least $5,000 in annual self-employment income, but are disqualified from receiving pandemic unemployment assistance because they are eligible for regular state unemployment benefits. In addition, the package gives states the authority to waive overpayments in cases where the claimant is not at fault. That's a good thing, family. The final agreement is less generous than the original bipartisan deal that was released earlier this month. It would have provided 16 weeks of enhanced payments and pandemic benefits. Well, me speaking, it beats a zero. However, we should be like Canada on $2,000 extra per month, like a UBI. That should be for families, individuals earning less than $75,000 a year and couples earning less than $150,000 a year. Should definitely be at $2,000 as a UBI. Hopefully that's what we'll move towards. The hope and the prayer for 2021 is that this ends soon. I know out here in California, they're talking about returning the kids back to school in the spring. So prayerfully it will end and we can get back to some semblance of normalcy. Although I do believe we'll be wearing the mask indefinitely. I know I'll be wearing them around large groups because I don't intend to back. I'll let everybody else do that, okay? The package also continues full federal financing of extended benefits through mid-March, providing up to 20 additional weeks of payments depending on a state's unemployment rate. Typically, states and the federal government split the tab. Fewer than 24 states now offer extended benefits because of the improving economy. Well, let me help you understand. It's improving for all the other groups but the American descendant of chattel slavery. So get this shmoney, family. Get this shmoney while they're in the mood to give it away. Don't let everybody else benefit and you not know how to access it, okay? You guys need to share this with people who aren't in these social media spaces getting this information, okay? Make sure you sign up for my YouTube, like, share, subscribe, because when you like it, it increases the algorithms for other folks to get to see this viewing. And it's an important one, all right? Small business loan. The package reopens the Paycheck Protection Program so that some of the hardest hit small businesses can apply for a second loan. Now, this is me speaking. It's my understanding from a comrade in the movement that if you rely on that, you can literally write off the monies you receive from the PPP come tax time, okay? That is what I'm learning. So if you have a small business and you're a recipient of the PPP, check with your tax accountant to be able to write this off. Wouldn't that be lovely, right? So that's what I heard. Check that out. Also, for those of you who received SBA,
the SBA loans. Okay. I was a recipient of that. You also want to check with your tax accountant, because if you had to use any portion of that to live on, I do believe from the same source that you can write that off as well. Check with your tax accountant if you took advantage of the SBA. If you did not take advantage of the SBA, you need to. I spoke with a comrade who received $50,000 in the SBA. I want to say around 3% that money is worth. You want that in your account, okay? Not in the federal government's account. So understand, if you're an independent contractor, you qualify for the SBA. And I'm saying take advantage of it. You can use that money and grow it at 6% and pay it back. But I'm telling you that you might be able, once you speak to your tax accountant, to write out some, if not all of it, as a form of your living expenses, family. Get everything you're due. Even if you want to sit up somewhere and let it grow and not touch it, have that money. Don't let that money get away and go back to line the pockets of the people in the government. Like I said, $42 billion has been returned. Okay, so there's some of the, the program stopped taking applications for the first round of loans in August. The second loans will be limited to those with fewer than 300 employees that have seen drops of at least 25% of their revenue during the first, second, or third quarter of 2020. Now, that's most Black-owned businesses, right? Go get the shmoney, family. It also reduces the amount a borrower can receive from $10 million to $2 million. Gives businesses more flexibility on how they spend the money, and simplifies the forgiveness process for loans under $150,000. I just said that, family. Isn't this great news? This is great news, family. You know what? We've got to find the blessing in the storm, family. We really have to find it. And this is a wonderful thing. I'm going to read that again. It reduces the amount a borrower can receive from $10 million to $2 million. Gives businesses more flexibility on how they spend the money. That's for living expenses, like I was telling you, and simplifies the forgiveness process for loans under $150,000. It carves out $12 billion for minority-owned businesses. That's nice, family. $12 billion for minority-owned businesses. It also expands eligibility to more nonprofits, as well as local newspapers, TV, and radio broadcasters. I'm going to look into that. Grants for theaters and other live venues. I don't care about that. Funding for schools and childcare. This might be good for us to look at, family. It provides $82 billion in aid for K through 12 schools and colleges. Earlier proposals from Republicans and Democrats called for at least $100 billion in aid for schools. That's not too far off the mark. An additional $10 billion is included to support childcare providers that have struggled because of the pandemic. This is good. Many ADOS have child care centers. Get your shmoney, family. Rental assistance, we talked about this. It extends until January 31. The eviction protection set to expire at the end of the year. It also provides $25 billion in rental assistance for individuals who lost their sources of income during this pandemic. Get your shmoney, family. Nutrition assistance. The package raises SNAP benefits by 15% for 6 months, but does not expand eligibility. This is more generous than the original bipartisan agreement from the earlier in December, which called for a 4-month increase. Democrats have advocated for augmenting the supplemental, the SNAP program, as food stamps are formally known, since the pandemic began, but the provision never made it into prior relief packages. So the Democrats did advocate for augmenting the SNAP program since the pandemic began, but the provision never made it into prior relief packages. It also expands the pandemic EBT program to families with children under age 6 who receive food stamps, deeming them enrolled in child care and eligible for benefits. The program now provides money to low-income families with school-age children in lieu of the free and reduced price meals they would have received in school. This is a wonderful, beautiful thing. Please share this video, family. You must get this out to everyone. The package sends, I say to share the video because oftentimes ADOS are too busy living that ADOS life to even read. So I read over here because a lot of us don't even engage in the art. We don't even have the luxury. We're working several jobs to make ends meet. So sometimes just putting it on in the car, like I often do with a lot of my new Black media, I watch you guys in the car or when I'm getting ready for the day or whatever. I can put you on and hear you versus going somewhere to read it, okay? The package sends $400 million to food banks and food pantries through the Emergency Food Assistance Program. It also provides $175 million for nutrition services for seniors, such as Meals on Wheels, and $13 million for the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, which serves more than 700,000 older Americans monthly. Well, that makes me happy. That makes me happy. Hold on, family. Folks, they know they like to talk when I'm busy. Vaccine and hospital funding. Now, I'm anti-vax. I'm an anti-vaxxer. I don't believe in vaccines that have not been means tested for at least 10 to 20 years. But I'm not, this is not that show. Let me just stick to the facts, okay? Vaccine and hospital funding. It provides $20 billion for the purchase of vaccines so they can be available at no charge for those who need it, as well as another $8 billion for vaccine distribution. It also gives states $20 billion to assist with testing. And it adds $3 billion to the $175 billion fund for hospitals and healthcare providers for reimbursement of healthcare-related expenses or lost revenue resulting from the pandemic. The original agreement would have given them another $35 billion. Okay. Payroll tax repayment. Employers who are deferring their workers' payroll taxes under Trump's executive action from August now have until the end of 2021 to increase their employees' withholding to pay back the taxes owed. Originally, the deferred amount had to be repaid by April 30. Many federal workers were required to participate in this program, though their unions protested. And then it goes into what's not included. I'm at an hour. So what I'll do is copy and paste this link, and you can share the link as well for those who want to read more. I'm not going to go through that portion. I hope you have some idea of the goodies that await you, okay? Just go and get them, family. Google what your state is doing and make sure you get what you need from the feds as well. All right, family, let's go to your comments. Looks like you guys have been busy. Let's see. I'm only going to read the pertinent comments. Let me stop sharing the screen. Happy 2021. Yes, it feels good to turn over a new year. Felicia Thompson, Black on both sides. Welcome to the live, fam. Otis, a prosperous new year to you. Keep doing the work. Thank you, Otis, for your love, your support, your advocacy. We love you so much. Black and Strong, fam. Henry Jerry Andrews, I think I said hello to you. Darlene Harrells from ADOS, be more in the building. Okay, let me move on down. Deborah Burrows, one of my staunchest supporters of this show. I thank you so much. You guys won't believe the gift I got from Reverend Della, the late Reverend Della's husband. Oh my God. The gift he gave me in the form of the kind that folds blew my mind completely. And family, this is why we're blessed and highly favored. Continue to be a blessing to others and watch the floodgates open. So that money is going to be used to further my energies in the new Black media spaces. Thank you so much on camera. I want to thank you, Mr. Lett. And this is the late, great Della Reese. I don't know if you guys know it, but she was a minister. She was my minister, but she's been in ministry before she passed a few years ago. She's been in ministry for 30 years. Many of you don't know that because you saw her, in Harlem Nights, and you saw her in very secular spaces. But you must look up some of her archives.
We are metaphysicians. You know, we believe in studying the word in spirit and in truth beyond the literal. What is the spiritual manna in that Bible? That's the way we approach it as New Thought Christians. And we believe that we are one with that inner Christ, that inner God that I remind you of at the end of every show. And I'm telling you, the gift that Miss Gillette laid on me, it moved me in the seat of my soul. I want to thank all of you for aggregated dollars. Do help me do this work. And I've got about 4 other shows in me. And this is the way I'm able to do it. So, Deborah, for your gifts. I'm going to flash it here so you guys can see, if you're in a position, this is a no stress thing, totally and completely. I'm open to all of your gifts, large and small. It doesn't matter to me. It all helps me do this work. Floyd Brazil, Martin Norwood, Floyd, hello, wifey. Hi. I've got a lot of amazing husbands since doing this show. It's just so wonderful. It's rich. I feel like Solomon in the reverse, all these beautiful, strong brothers, showing me so much love, showing all of the ADOS sisters so much love. We love our brothers. We love our brothers, and we thank you for your love. I know I do, and I know I speak for the other sisters in the movement and just the ADOS and the allies who support this work. Know that our brothers are very dear to us. We love you. Brian Johnson, so jealous. It's about 35 here. Oh, you talk about the weather? Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. This is why we pay the rents we do, child. This is why. Okay, you would not believe my home is valued. I am in a 1,000 square foot condo, and one just sold for $525,000, under 1,000 square feet. But I'm a 20-minute walk to the beach. So you see, this is what all of ADOS needs. All of ADOS needs real estate. Okay, worth $500,000 or more. Yeah, that's what I'm fighting for, so that we can. I don't like just being one of a few unicorns. We should all be unicorns up in this piece. Kelly Pryor, this is a deep centuries-old debt that is old, period. You're right, Kelly Pryor, and we are on our square. Welcome to the live, my love. York 2700, welcome to the live. Preach, a world within a world. Happy New Year's, Black Queen. Thank you. Kimberly Witcher, Happy New Year. Brian Johnson, we're tired of being the country's doormat. Oh, well, first of all, why should we have ever been the country's doormat? If our ancestors' lives and their bones and their blood are in this soil, why are we the anchor of this country? You're absolutely right. We're done. We're not just tired. We're done. And we are here like a hot damn steady drum beat. You will hear us and that reparations cry in your sleep. So folks often say, well, what makes you think that they're going to give you reparations? These are white racists. Well, what if our ancestors thought that way about our emancipation? Instead of fleeing their slave camps, 500 or more to the Union camps. That's the only reason why Abraham Lincoln signed on for our emancipation. It was the pressure from the American descendants of chattel slavery. It was a pressure from the civil rights movement that got us the civil rights we enjoy to this day. So it's going to be the pressure from the ADOS, not just the movement, but the lineage. Okay? If you descend from American chattel slavery, you need to be in this fight slinging bricks with us. We can't get cynical now that trillions are old. I'm reading from the Black Tax. We're getting back to that in a second after I read the comments. And honey, the struggle is real. And these people, I'm up to like about 100 trillion that's been stolen. So 17 trillion is too low, and that's not the number I'm working with, because you don't want to start with what you want to collect in negotiations, which I do professionally. You absolutely want to go high or go home. Okay, so I'm coming in big. I may be around 50 trillion. We'll see. I'm still adding it up from the Black Tax. Very interesting topics, love. Thank you, Terry Lewis. I try to be fresh and fly and bring you something you haven't heard.
Brian, it's like business owner being offended when the employee comes for his due paycheck. Is this not the real scam? Yeah, you want you want America. You wouldn't expect any less for a day's work, but you want the American descendants of chattel slavery not to fight for the very repair we owed. We stand in the shoes of. Didn't the Jews stand in the shoes of for their Holocaust, which this country used my tax dollars? I mean, Obama gave them 12 million. Last count, they had 233 million from our tax dollars here in this country. And that last count was 2013. That was for their armies and their Holocaust. I can't even find current numbers from 2013 through 2020. If anybody's able to find that number, please add it to 233 million that has gone to the Jews. Nobody's talked about what went 20,000 each to the Japanese for their internment. Nobody talks about the Native Americans receiving their reparations and denying the Black Cherokee, Seminole. You know, there's 5 major tribes. We'll go into it on Sunday. But the Blacks have been excluded from that while they made $5 white Indians on the Dawes rolls. We're going to get into it. So miss me with it. Okay, as Queen Amadar Shakur says, miss me with it. I'll give her credit for that one. That's cute. Miss me with it. So yeah, we're coming for that check. Loud and strong. We're on our square. Kimberly Witcher, you did theater as well. Love the theater. I miss it so much. But you know, having a baby changes everything. And that's why they call me the drama queen over here. Probably so. It just kind of is in me. That's how I'm wired. I am passionate. I am dramatic, and I love theater, television, and film, and I love Black actors. And let me help you understand something. Black actors aren't always in a position to speak full-chested. Why do you think I do this under the Angela Nirvana name? Well, that's my stage name too, okay? But the bottom line is I can't do this in my government name. What makes you think that the actresses and the actors can really speak up? Will they still be gainfully employed? And if they're not employed, will we be able to enjoy their body of work? Just because they're not full-chested about it doesn't mean they're not contributing in the ways that they do. So please don't come forward and disparage anyone who can't, boldly confess ADOS and the reparations. If they're doing so silently, let them sling bricks in the best way that they know how. Don't demand of them to be full-chested when it could cost them everything, family. If folks are coming for us, calling us xenophobes and Russian bots and Trump supporters on the strength of raising the reparations that are owed, imagine if they started leveraging their voice and weaponizing their voices in this way. You saw what happened to Nate Parker when he did the Nat Turner story. Now he's got another film coming out. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. I think it's called American Dream or something. But it's going to be fire, and we need to get out there and support it in massive numbers, or at least buy it on the screens if it's still under the pandemic when it's released. Buy it, in the social media spaces, okay? But the bottom line is don't disparage them. You see what happens when they stand up and use their voices to help us in any way, shape, or form. It's not fun. So, yes, all right, Kimberly, I love my creatives. Jerry Hinton, welcome to the live, my love. 2 separate issues. Reparations for Black Americans have nothing to do with our love and struggle for Black people around the world. Jerry, you're absolutely right. And this is where we come into challenges with folks wanting to paint us as xenophobe because we put the gate up. Being pro-ADOS is not anti-immigrant. It's not anti-white. It's simply pro-ADOS. First, second, and third for a change for neglected people who are tethered to this bottom of this country as the anchor, as the legs of the table that everyone else eats from. And I'm not going to continue to beat that drum. I'm not going to participate. I said what I said, okay? And if you want to confuse the two and conflate the two and get in your feelings, that's your monkey and your circus, not mine. Okay. Jamal, welcome to the live. Happy New Year. Okay, I'm just reading the most important ones. Black Magic, Happy New Year, my love. Sam Riley, Happy New Year. Cheryl Livingston, you are appreciated, and so are you. Thank you, family. You are the wind beneath my wings. Brian, hey, phone can't wait. The phone has to wait, family. I'm in the middle of spending my time with the people, my tribe. Kelly Pryor,
Giving love to Black Magic, Arthur Ward, ADOS Chicago. That's the 13%. Hopefully they'll be back at it now. The new year is back. Him and Cynthia McDonald. Love you guys. Kunta, Happy New Year, Trey. Okay, moving down. Martin Norwood, excellent interview. I saw you at Arthur Ward. Okay, Arthur Ward was in an interview. I need a copy of that. Run me that link, family, so I can share. NorCal, ADOS, Reginald Morton in the building. Thank you. Patrice Lane Jordan, Terry Lewis. I think I said some of these names. Oh, child, the ghetto. It always jumps. Okay, we're almost done with the comments so we can get to the reading. I hope you got your libations nearby. As I commented in an earlier show, says Brian, $600 stimulus equals giving a whale a Tic Tac. I think you responded, yes, you did on one of my shows. I saw that. It's true, family, but it beats a zero. Yes, that doctor. Thank you, Jamal, for bringing me back on that subject. That doctor died from the racism in the hospital. Lord, I lost my way. Let me go back to that story and revisit it because I did want to complete that thought. I was bringing this up in relationship to the government, to Congress getting double the health care as ADOS died disproportionately from COVID. And I was sharing about a doctor whose video has gone viral where she was being neglected in the hospital after being diagnosed with COVID. She died 2 weeks after her video. Okay. They had only administered 2 vials of remdesivir. Now, if you've seen my prior shows, it took 5 administrations of remdesivir for my nephew, who, thank the Lord, managed because of the white hospitals on the white side of town. Unlike the black hospital on the black side of town, first of all, wanted to fight my sister over giving my nephew the COVID test. Secondly, they sent him home to self-quarantine when he lives with my mom and his sister and my mom's husband. And so my baby sister wasn't having it because he was getting progressively worse while quarantining in a hotel. Most of the hotels don't want you quarantining there because, of course, they don't want for their employees and for the guests to get the COVID. But many of us who are being sent home in these small spaces with other family members don't want to kill our family. So we go to the hotels to quarantine. Well, anywho, my sister and all her wherewithal and infinite wisdom took him to the white side of town. They hospitalized him and they gave him 5 days of remdesivir, what they gave a black doctor 2 days. And you wonder why she died. He needed 5, 6 days in the hospital. They gave her 2 and started fighting with her. Even the advocacy, the patient advocacy there would not help her. And she was a doctor. Rest in power, sister. But this is what's happening. If you think it's happening to this sister who was a doctor, rest in power. Imagine what is happening to ADOS who earned and had a lower station in life than her. So thank you, Jamal, for bringing me back to my point. Lawmakers, Brian says, always seem to get the money when it comes to financing the military in other countries. Absolutely, as they tell us no to the trillions we are owed. Yeah, they enrich themselves. They take advantage and weaponize pandemics for elections. They weaponize pandemics to line their pockets and to get more good for them and the people that line their pockets. They do all of that. Oh, yeah. And of course, they have a lot of money, I think, and I'll raise this on Sunday too. I recently read where they actually vetoed Trump for more military spending. Yeah, that was the Congress vetoed a measure he passed, to take away this portion from the COVID relief for the military. They vetoed that. So they're going to have their wars, family, despite Trump trying to veto it. I don't really want to, just get into that right now because I've not read it and I want to make sure I understand fully what he vetoed and what they vetoed in terms of the veto on him. They overrode the president on this military expenditure. I'll get into it on Sunday. Wade,
Turner Sr., love you, sister. You are truly appreciated for enlightening us on everything that Satan is doing to us. Wade, I appreciate you guys wanting to be informed, to continue to build your reparations muscle so that you can help continue slinging bricks on behalf of our people, the American descendant of chattel slavery. Mike Michelson, Happy New Year to you, my love. Okay, so I think, are we at the bottom? Saltra Delry 360, Happy New Year. Thank you, Terry, for keep watching me. Yes. Kelly Pryor, Touched by an Angel was my favorite character for her. She was everything in Touched by an Angel. She's speaking of Reverend Della Reese, the late, great Reverend Della Reese. I was speaking on her husband gifting me generously, and I'm going to be utilizing that towards the show, of course, after I tithe on it. So yeah, she was fire, but it was the principles that she teaches at this church that helped her to give manifestation to that show and that role on Touched by an Angel. And so that is what she teaches, how to manifest beyond the appearance of nothing. It's mind over matter in many instances, family. We'll get into it on a whole nother show. That's not the show. This is ADOS politics, so I'm going to stay on my square. But yes, she was amazing in Touched by an Angel. Amazing in every way. Happy New Year, BT. Love you, Black and Strong. J. Earl Robinson. Brian says it's hard to be full-chested when you're in the belly of the beast. Yeah, it is hard to be full-chested, but we must find a way. A lot of it for me was prayer. I had to pray because my daughter is very afraid of me being so vocal. She wants me to just give money, but God wants me to use my voice. And so God is with me. If anything were to happen to me, it is well with my soul because I died fighting for the people I love. My people, American descendant of chattel slavery. My living will not have been in vain. I'm not wishing nothing to happen to me or any of us. But wouldn't you rather die on your square? Wouldn't you rather your living not be in vain? And that's what I had to resolve when I decided to pick this mantle up a couple of years ago. Chinetta Davis, ADOS, Colorado. Welcome, love. Michael Brown, welcome to the live, my love. Happy New Year to you. We love you so much, and you need to continue standing down for our cause. I ain't going nowhere, Wade. Can't wait for the future call-in shows. Oh, it's going to be rich. I can only hope they won't be 5 hours. I was born to talk, as were many of you. All right, family, let's get into it. The black tax, the cost of being black in America. Then I'll pray you out. I'm only reading a small section because we're at an hour 23. I'm trying to get this done in 90 minutes. So let's pick up from the black tax to the present. Like I said, this is to strengthen your resolve while you fight. You have to understand what you're fighting for. I'm prayerful that this show will get more people involved in the reparations fight and strengthen their resolve to get others, like a domino effect. That is the intent. Black tax from 65 to the present. Despite the monumental efforts of the civil rights movement, which created massive opportunities for Black Americans to 1, attend world-class universities, 2, pursue exciting and lucrative occupations and career paths, 3, start new businesses, and 4, gain access to capital and government contracts, studies have shown that there has been little change in the relative rank in the overall earnings distribution of Black and white men since 1940. In 1940, the median Black wage earner made less than 75% of all white wage earners, while in 2009, the median Black wage earner made less than 73% of all white wage earners. Gains from the civil rights movement can easily be seen in the Black students who gained access to numerous predominantly white universities, went on to work for major companies, and attained important leadership roles throughout corporate America. This allowed Black men in the 90th percentile of Black wage earners to close some of the earnings gap with their white peers. In 1940, Black 90th percentile wage earners made as much money as white
50th percentile wage earners, but by 2014, Black 90th percentile wage earners made as much as white 75th percentile wage earners. While these 90th percentile wage earners never achieved parity with their white peers, many of them were able to move out of economically depressed areas into communities with the resources and opportunities to prepare their children to succeed at the highest levels despite facing significant discrimination. Their accomplishments were extraordinary given the pervasive effects of racial discrimination in the workplace, which researchers estimate cost about $94 billion to $123 billion in 1970 alone. Me speaking. This is important, family. And I want to read it to you because I had to share this in Facebook, because it is that group that I just read about that's the problem in this movement. Those of us who benefited from white university, even Black university, and were able to make it and make strides in corporate America, the blues of the American descent of chattel slavery is very different for Gen Xers, millennials, and the Gen Zs. It's gotten desperately worse, as only about 20%, I would say roughly 18% of ADOS is actually degreed. And even when you get a degree, it doesn't keep them from discriminating against you in the workplace, because affirmative action protects white women first, immigrants second, and LGBTQIA third. If there's any crumbs left, we may be the benefactors, but by and large, we can't afford to go to school. And all of it is by design of institutional systemic racism. And so I wrote this and I shared it in my spaces, and I want to share with you now about it, because I'm being urged in the spirit to do so, because the ones of us that have made it are mighty harsh and cruel to those of us who are left behind. It's amazing to me that you can even rest peaceably knowing that any part of our group is unable to achieve the success that you have, because you happen to fall within the framework of all the benefits when it was benefiting us primarily and predominantly. Okay, so I need you to understand that it's very different. And I wrote something very great in the Facebook space that I'm trying to find right now, because I want you to understand who this fight is really about and why you need to get involved in this fight. Just give me a second, because it's important that I read this right now. I post a lot, family. Just give me a second. Bear with me. It's a message to my successful ADOS. And I coined it so beautifully here. I don't want to botch it. Here we go. Thank you for your patience. We're the exception to the rule. We're not the rule. And as the exception, we shouldn't be seen as the barometer when it comes to white supremacy and institutional systemic racism. Although, even as the exception, many of us have experienced it. For every one of us exceptions, There are far too many dying disproportionately from government-sanctioned executions, especially the ones that weren't caught on tape or are being hidden from us by the state. There are far too many nonviolent offenders that are a part of the new slavery, the private prison industrial complex. There are far too many that are a part of the broken education system to supply the preschool to prison pipeline, etc. What we're dealing with is real. And as long as we are looking at the exception to determine what we are as a country, we're never going to change. You cannot fix what you refuse to face. I hope that resonated with those of us who decide, I've got mine, you get yours, who want to talk down to the ADOS who have struggled, who want to separate yourselves as if this is not your monkey nor your circus. I hope that resonates with you. I doubt you're watching this show right now because many of the people that are watching this show are, in fact, the exception, using their voices to fight for the American descendant of chattel slavery. And I am proud to call you comrade. But for those who may see this show, who struggle with getting in this fight for reparations for your people, I hope that landed with you, that it is your monkey in your circus. To whom much is given, much is required. Open up your eyes to the politics that are being weaponized against our children. And give a damn, because it could be your child. It could be your grandchild. We are a wealthless group. We may have income, but we are without wealth. So don't get high and mighty and highfalutin and look down your nose at those of us who are struggling. Many of us are in denial that we are, in fact, a couple of paychecks from being homeless. I always try to keep it a buck over here because my audience appreciates my transparency. But the challenge is we get lost in denial about the truth of us being a wealthless group. And then the benign neglect continues. And then you become ashamed that you are from a wealthless group. Instead of saying it loud, I am ADOS and I'm proud. Because you are the strongest of all the people in the world. You descend from ancestors who endured the most egregious, heinous chattel slave labor ever known to the born world. And here we sit on social media to discuss the depths of that. That's your privilege because of the costs they paid. So don't be ashamed to be ADOS. Don't be ashamed that you're wealthless by design of institutional systemic racism. Don't be ashamed of your fellow brother who is oppressed by the boot that took the life of George Floyd. That is the oppression that the ADOS as a tribe experiences on a regular basis, even when you are successful. I bear witness to that. Be transparent and understand to whom much is given, much is required, and get in this fight. While Blacks in the 90th percentile did relatively well, Black men in the 75th percentile saw their earnings stagnant, and Black men at the 50th percentile saw their earnings decline by 32%. This decline was driven by a dramatic increase in the percentage of Black men of prime working age, 24 to 55, with zero earnings, i.e. no income, which almost doubled from 17% in 1970 to 35% in 2014. This dramatic increase was driven by, number one, globalization, The movement of manufacturing jobs, especially low-skilled jobs from the U.S. inner cities to low-cost jurisdictions, i.e. low-wage countries around the world from 1940 to 1970. Approximately 3.4 million African Americans left the South to escape violence and disenfranchisement and to secure manufacturing jobs in northern cities. By 1970, 70% of all African Americans working in metro areas had blue-collar jobs, and as the manufacturing jobs disappeared, so did the secondary employment opportunities, i.e. those in stores, support services, and banks. And millions of Black families fell into poverty, me speaking. Black men are experiencing some of the highest rates of unemployment and underemployment due to immigration being weaponized against us in this country. When Joe Biden sits up here and tells you he's going to give $30 million more to the race soldiers in Black communities and open the floodgates to 22 million more immigrants, this puts the boot on our men and women, but especially our Black men. They suffer from the highest rates of unemployment and underemployment due to this very thing, because capitalism requires a bottom. So they import cheap labor and deny Black men especially access to jobs. So Black men, I encourage you to make magic like you always have and create your own businesses. I am doing that with my own voice. I am finding a way to speak nationally and internationally, to be a paid speaker about the reparations fight. I've got about 4 or 5 more shows in the pipeline that I want to develop. And, I want to build my community at Friends of ADOS with people who are full-chested about reparations and weaponizing the vote and socializing our suffering. But please understand that I went through the very same thing in the banking system. We, ADOS, were replaced by Hispanics and Asians here. $120,000 a year is what I was earning. And we were replaced. So please don't think it's the orange pickers that this is happening to. This is also happening to educated Blacks. You've got white high school dropouts more readily employable and gainfully employable than college degreed ADOS. This is how we got here. So what he's talking about, this is absolutely the truth. This book was published in 2017. Okay? So please know that that goes on current day, and you've got a lot of Black degreed individuals riding Uber and Lyft and delivering groceries because of this globalization and immigration policies. It hurts ADOS the most. Number 2, an increased premium, back to the text, on high-skilled jobs requiring a college education or specialized training, and a decreased value placed on low-wage jobs. So there's an increased premium on high-skilled jobs requiring a college degree or specialized training. Hello, Kamala Harris, and her plans to bring over more East Indian Brahmin, which is white folks in India, over here on H-1B visas in order to attain tech jobs. While we can't afford to be educated, why? Because they take from the public school system, they take from the Black schools, the Black and brown schools, I'm dealing with Black, and give them to the white institutions to fail your children and set them up, our children, and set them up for the preschool to prison pipeline. So if you can't get a good preschool education, the only place you're destined for are the prisons, to make space for the 6-figure jobs that Kamala intends to bring her people over. I've already explained to you guys down here in LA, ADOS is 200 liquid to African immigrants, 60,000 liquid to white folks. I want to say 150,000 liquid to Kamala's people. I want to say $425,000 liquid, Asian Indians.
And they're intending to do more of the same by opening up the floodgates to the low wage workers to replace us with even lower salaries with the Hispanics. And the college degree and specialized training is going to go to the East Indian Brahmin caste, and the other immigrants that come from money, because the color of white in this country is green. And this is hurting American descendants of chattel slavery. And this is why I'm telling you, our square needs to be to weaponize the vote and to socialize the suffering. We need to deliver a red top and a blue Congress. It's not unakin to Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of Abyssinian Church, who, when Teddy Roosevelt won, he dishonorably discharged 167 Buffalo soldiers after the vote. Dr. Charles Morris said, "You shot us when our guns were empty, and the FU in exchange will be a blue top and a red bottom." Okay? Because we were Republicans at the time. He was going to deliver a Democratic president and a Republican Congress to protect the Black South. There's nothing different about what I'm suggesting we do to lock it down, to burn it to the ground, so nothing will get done until they cut the reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. We have no wealth. We ain't got to wait till 2053. I've been telling y'all that for a couple of years now. We're already wealthless. And the way you know that is to look to your left, look to your right. Anybody around you got some wealth? That's ADOS. There you have it. You don't need any data for that. You can just go right outside. Okay, number 3, white Americans' reactions to the perceived advancement of Black Americans due to civil rights. White Americans' reactions to the perceived advancement of Black Americans due to civil rights. A, mass incarceration stemming from tough on crime, law and order, the war on drugs, mandatory minimum sentences, and other criminal justice policies that devastated the Black community. And B, reduced tax base and property values driven by continued white flight out of inner cities into surrounding suburbs with little to no Black presence. So to that point, me speaking, the white American reaction to the perceived advancement of Black Americans due to civil rights. You see, this is the trick of the devil, right? You always keep pushing the narrative of like the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z's and the P. Diddy's, or the LeBron James, or the Oprah Winfrey's and the Michael Jordans. That's what white America is seeing. Okay? Or you want to tether us all together under Black immigrants who are doing significantly better than us economically in the country of our ancestors. They didn't get here until after the 65 Immigration Act. But these are the ones that you see able to shop at the Waldorf or wherever, these high-end places, because they've got the capital to do that. Many of them come to this country already have the capital. That's the trick bag. That's the lie. That they're all coming over here that are poor. If you are Black in this country, you come from money. They may have let a few poor ones in the beginning of the Immigration Act, but not anymore. Just go and ask the people who've been waiting on the lines, were they letting one poor African over here at a time once a year? Or just ask the people from Haiti who took boats over here for refuge, and they are sending those poor Blacks back. But they'll let a whole bunch of poor Hispanics up in this piece to compete with our non-educated. And they'll let a whole bunch of educated money immigrants in this piece, not to compete with white folks, but to compete with us. Back to the text. The continued presence of anti-Black discrimination in the workplace is number 4. The continued presence of anti-Black discrimination in the workplace. Yes, I just shared with you how they replaced American descendants of chattel slavery with Asians and Hispanics in Wells Fargo Bank. And it's very difficult when you're ADOS down here anyway to get employment because we have no social capital at the table. We don't have Blacks in a position to hire us. And even when they are there to oppress us and to deny us. They're taking orders from the oppressors that are running the show. Usually immigrants and white folks run the show and are hiring down here. Because Black Americans have been historically forced to occupy the lowest wage, lowest skilled positions in the workforce, they were disproportionately affected by the movement of low wage jobs overseas. Even though Black American educational attainment increased rapidly from 1940 and 2010, it was not sufficient to offset the shift away from low skilled jobs. So forget what you heard. Having all the degrees on the planet does not close over $100 trillion egregious racial wealth gap. That's not how any of this works. Reparations now in the trillions over multi-generations. They don't have to call you nigger anymore. They legislate you as a nigger. That's what they've done to Black folks, to American descendants of chattel slavery. They call us niggers in the way they legislate us out of everything. This is the way they steal everything that our ancestors built with their lives through the legislation and the policies. Look at the archives. This is page 78. This is how far along we are in this book. In 1940, about 7% of Black Americans had completed high school. And by 2010, almost 90% had completed high school. While this is impressive, the value of a high school education fell dramatically after the 70s. This meant that Black Americans rapidly attained a degree that prepared them for low-skilled manufacturing jobs that were rapidly disappearing from inner cities. You see? They create the problem, then want you to vote them in as the solution, while not offering any solutions at all, while continuing to tell us no to reparations. Therefore, the movement of jobs away from the inner cities and the limited employment opportunities remaining for low-skilled labor led to increased unemployment, depression, and crime in Black neighborhoods. As they sit back and wonder why Black-on-Black murder is so rampant, why Black-on-Black crime is so rampant. They do it by institutional systemic racism and scratch their heads and act as if we just up and one day decided to kill each other for sport. This is the Miseducation of ADOS in America with 3Ks book club series. Welcome. In 1940, about 1.6% of Black Americans had completed college, and by 1970, that number had increased to about 5%. The few Black Americans who were able to receive specialized training or attend colleges were able to capture some of the increased premium what was being placed on higher skilled occupations. However, desegregation, various race riots during the late 60s, coupled with white American conscious and unconscious bias against Black Americans, led many whites to fear an increase in crime and a decrease in property values as Black Americans gained more ability to move into neighborhoods from which they had been previously excluded. Me speaking, we are now, many of us, that can't afford to get out. Thank you, Monica Tapatio and Kane Lover 90 for joining the live. Preach, my sister. I'm doing my best, my love. Our people, on the other hand, have been redlined into environmentally hazardous, racist wastelands, which is another reason why we're dying disproportionately from COVID. It's in the lead water, the lead paint, because we were excluded even when we had the means. This made many whites move out of inner cities and into suburban areas where there were fewer African Americans. Now what? They want the cities back, and now we're talking gentrification with no money. Where is American descendant of chattel slavery going? With no money. Folks talk about ADOS in LA. Y'all should move. Most of us are $200 liquid when 90% of us, 90% of the people on Skid Row are American descendants of chattel slavery. Where are they moving to with $200, and who's going to hire them?
These are the things that keep me up at night, family. Because we're being asked, those of us who are already stretched thin, to be the reparations for our own people and to pull ourselves up by our bootless straps. And folks want to come for us calling us xenophobes because we have to put the gate up or become an extinct people like the Indians. ADOS is dying. Our numbers are not growing. Between abortions, government-sanctioned executions, and black-on-black crimes and murder, and COVID, we're losing. So I don't give a damn what you call me. I'm on my square. And I thank you guys for being on your square and giving a damn about your people and over here watching and learning to strengthen your resolve to stay in this fight when you get weary. As some Black Americans also begin to move into suburban areas, white Americans move even further out to the outer suburbs where there were fewer Blacks. As white Americans left inner cities and inner suburbs, they took the wealth and the capital with them, and this white flight combined with the job losses from globalization. Oh, Lord, today. Let me plug in my outlet, family. Hold that thought. I'm losing battery. Whew. Thank the Lord. I saw that thing go dark. I didn't want to lose y'all. It's just now getting good. Let me go back. So white flight combined with the job losses from globalization further depressed property values and significantly reduced the tax base that many urban areas needed to fund public education and fire and safety departments. You got Obama, Jesus Obama to thank for this, NAFTA. This reduction in tax base weakened public education in inner cities where most Black Americans now lived. Didn't Rahm Emanuel, Arthur, if you're still with me, didn't Rahm shut down 30 schools in the Shire? And scratch his head, wondering why folks are killing each other and robbing from each other? The resulting lack of economic opportunities in Black neighborhoods increased the appeal of illegal drugs, both as an escape for users and as a means of economic advancement for low-level sellers. The continued fear of Black Americans bringing crime to previously white neighborhoods also led to a rash of legislation and increased policing in Black neighborhoods, which Biden, your president, is planning to give them $30 million more. And he's not dismantling qualified immunity. The continued fear of Black Americans bringing crime to previously white neighborhoods also led to a rash of legislation that increased policing in Black neighborhoods, increased the length and severity of sentencing for various crimes, and treated drug use and selling of drugs at the street level as a criminal justice issue instead of a healthcare and economic problem, like they do with their own, right? With the opioid epidemic. They're not in jail. That was reserved for ours who was crack addicted from trying to escape the poverty from having all the wealth their ancestors built with their lives stolen from them. I'm asking you to have some empathy. I'm asking you to be your brother's keeper. The consequence had a devastating effect on Black men and a long-lasting impact on Black households. And you wonder why marriage rates are down. Black men can't afford to propose to Black women. And Black women lack the education and the understanding for the plight of our Black men to love them through this and to help them through it. We are looking at our black men like our white oppressors and our white feminists. Not many of you watching. But I cannot believe the judgment that comes upon the heads of our black men by our own black sisters that are educated and degreed. I happen to be one, but I understand how we got here. So I'm not going to take it out on the black man, and neither should you. And the black man should not take it out on the black woman. We need to exercise and practice at all times a unified front. How do you think the Latinos are winning? They're unified. Despite their differences, they are unified. We need more of that. The percent of incarcerated black men increased from 2% in 1970 to 8% in 2014. The percent of out-of-work black men increased from 8% in 1917 to 16% in 2014. So we got 4 times the incarceration rate, twice the unemployment rate. This is 2014. We're not even talking 2020 and the COVID. I don't even have those numbers yet. The percent of black men not working but looking for employment increased from 7% in 1970 to 11% in 2014. This black tax led to the percentage of black men of prime working age 25 to 55 earning zero income increasing from 17% in 1970 to 35% in 2014. I would say over 50% now. The impact became so dire that as of 2001, 2,166,000 African Americans had been imprisoned, or 9.2% of the African American population over the age of 18. In addition, 33% of black men born in 2001 are expected to be incarcerated in their lifetimes and will be likely unable to vote and find employment due to background checks. Today, African Americans constitute nearly 1 million of the total 2.3 million people incarcerated, costing $30.4 billion per year. This is since the 2017 print of this. It's far more than 1 million. Because I think it's about 1 million black men alone. It costs $30.4 billion per year to incarcerate 2.3 million people. If those men were out of jail and earning $15 per hour, collectively they would add $30 billion per year to their family's income and lift millions of black children out of poverty. In 1970, nearly 70% of black families were composed of married couples. By 1990, the removal of young black men from mass incarceration had lowered the percentage of black households composed of married couples to less than 50%. Today, black families are losing $30 billion per year, and American society is losing $60 billion per year because of the 1 million black men in jail. The $30 billion spent incarcerating 1 million black men could cover the cost of a public college education and technical vocational training for all of these men. The culmination of centuries of the black tax has also left African Americans with not only a disproportionate share of low-paying jobs, but also with an unemployment rate that has been twice that of white Americans since 1960, which is almost 60 years. This means that as of 2010, if blacks had the same employment rate as white Americans, an additional 2 million African Americans would have been employed, which amounts to almost $80 billion per year of lost income and benefits to the black community, or 3.3 trillion over the last 6 decades. Decades of a discriminatory black tax effectively excluded black Americans from receiving trillions of dollars of government support that was invested in the economic development of white families, communities, businesses, and institutions. Hence why my number is more than 17 trillion. The number I will be working with over at Friends of ADOS is based on this book. Once I crunch the numbers, I will let you know what I'm fighting for, and you can decide if you want to get into that fight with me.
But my fight is not just for slavery, but it's also for Jim Crow and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage. So the number is far greater than 17 trillion. You can email me at friendsofADOSTV@gmail.com. No, friendsofADOSTV@gmail.com. That's right. Friends of ADOSTV. If you're interested in some of the work I'm doing with respect to what my figure will be that I'm fighting for. While these anti-Black discriminatory practices executed by both the government, private citizens, and institutions allow white families to buy homes, fund college education, start new businesses, and participate in almost 80 years of unprecedented stock and real estate market appreciation, Black Americans, when not subjected to mass incarceration, were largely confined to neighborhoods with intergenerational poverty, high unemployment, substandard education, and economic deprivation. Despite this massive historical Black tax and the tens of billions of dollars of Black tax associated with implicit and explicit bias in the real estate, automotive, and business financing markets, the mass incarceration of Black men, and the discrimination in the workforce, the perception held by most white Americans is that Black Americans don't try hard enough. Who else says this? Immigrants, Black and other alike. The perception held by most white Americans and immigrants is that Black Americans don't try hard enough. Considering the following polling data. A, the prevailing view among almost 70% of whites is that Blacks use racism as an excuse for failure. B, 63% of Americans believe that Blacks not trying hard enough is more to blame for their not getting ahead than any racial discrimination. Let me add to that institutional systemic racism. This is based on the Pew Research Center for the People and the Press, January 2012. C, 61% of whites believe that Blacks have equal opportunities with whites. While these views seem comical, unbelievable, and downright frustrating in light of the massive costs that have been imposed on Black Americans and the funds invested in white Americans, they are still held by millions of Americans and play a large role in the formulation and execution of policies that affect Black American wealth accumulation and economic development. On Sunday, family, we conclude with part 3. Well, we won't be concluding. It'll probably be about 4 shows before I get through this. I'm reading it because to highlight it would mean the whole book. So I'm reading, and it's story time. So always have your tea ready or whatever, your libation, as Yvette calls it. Yeah, we're going to pick up with what can we do about the Black tax? Part 3. That's coming up on Sunday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, and 8 o'clock. 5, 7, and 8. 5 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Central, and 8 o'clock Eastern. In addition to the reparations. So I will be using this as the way I craft my demand for reparations. Hey, we can all have a say in how we get this done. So pick up that book. It's a very useful one to have in your library. I love the way he contextualizes everything, and I'm looking forward to tallying the number and meeting with my comrades to craft that message and to get in this fight. Well, to continue in the fight. Okay. Friends of ADOS is open to any and all people who want reparations and a Black agenda in exchange for our vote. I want to work with all the grassroots to accomplish that. And for those who want to get the work done, if you're about that mess and silliness, I'm not on that over here. That's not this show, nor how I'm moving under Friends of ADOS. I want to work with allies, and I want to work with other grassroots. So hit me up at friendsofadostv@gmail if you want to do the same. With that said, family, I want to thank you so much for your attention and your time. You guys are the wind beneath my wings. I want to thank you for your comments. I'm at 2 hours. I don't want to really go through the additional comments, but I will read them and comment, when I'm rested. I hope you come back on Sunday to spend more time with me and to learn more about the reparations that we are owed in the trillions over multi-generations. With that said, family, I want to wish you the best Happy New Year, the best of 2021. It can go no place but up from here, family, right? And with that said, let me pray you out that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. With that said, family, you make it a beautiful God-inspired rest of your evening. And until Sunday, you go out here in these streets. Show the world who you really are and what you're really working with. The wind of the ancestors at your back. The DNA of the ancestors coursing through your veins. You got this. We've got this, right, family? Know that if no one has told you today that I love you black, I love you strong. Mwah. Peace, family. Thank you. Share, share, share.